That's my new intro. Wow! It's my shit, but peep. Wow. Good eats on us. No.
A man in Arizona is caught filming up women's skirts at a makeup store as they shop. Chris Hansen joins me to talk about catching shady characters who prey on people just living their everyday lives. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Well, this next story has a pretty high ick factor. We go to Scottsdale, Arizona, where a man was arrested for filming up women's skirts while they shopped in stores. Yeah. Police arrested 27-year-old Fabian Calderon. They charged him with voyeurism. According to investigators, Calderon would crouch down next to women and position his phone to take photos or videos between their legs. He did this in a Sephora. He did this in Urban Outfitters. In fact, apparently surveillance footage shows him entering a Sephora, looking around for about 20 minutes while secretly filming these women. That's the allegation here. Now, he was actually caught in the act by one victim, and the woman's friend yelled at him, took his picture as he ran away, but he wasn't caught that day. No, police were called back to that same Sephora last Saturday with another report of a suspicious man possibly recording people, and Calderon had left, but then police spotted him on surveillance entering another nearby store. So they stop him. He doesn't speak English. He's a Mexican national, so they used a translator. And he ends up giving officers permission to look through his phone. And what do they find? 240 upskirt videos and images. 240. By the way, he was also charged with providing a fake identity to police when he was arrested. A lot to talk about here. So I want to bring in my good friend, Chris Hansen, renowned journalist, host of the Takedown, True Blue, and Predators I've Caught with Chris Hansen, a podcast that I encourage everyone to check out. Chris, good to see you. I haven't seen you since CrimeCon.
Jesse, I know.
Fantastic.
Great to see you. Thank you very much. What a case this is, you know?
Yeah, I mean, what do you think about, in a way, when I was going to talk to you about this, I wanted to know, is this, I've seen this 1,000 times, or is this, this is something different?
Well, it is something different, but it's relatable to the predator investigations, Jesse, because these guys, these predators, will go where they think they can find vulnerable victims upon whom to prey. So obviously this guy figured out that if he went to a Sephora store or one of these other stores where there was a high concentration of young women, that's where he would go to get the videos. And I can tell you this, that when authorities and therapists who are involved in this field interview predators who I've caught in my investigations, they will tell you almost routinely that there is a connection between viewing pornography, child pornography, and offending and seeking children and vulnerable victims in general. So you have to wonder, if this guy, Calderon, was not caught now, what would he have graduated to in terms of criminal activity had he not been caught at this stage? Because you know from covering crime for so long and being a lawyer, an attorney, that a lot of serious criminals start with voyeurism. Peeping Toms turn into rapists and then sometimes killers. Predators, in my investigation, start with the viewing of child pornography. So you really have to think that this would have continued and perhaps exponentially got worse as time went on. So it's a good thing if these charges are true, and it sure appears they've got a lot of evidence based upon the videos they recovered from Calderon's phone. You have to be very fearful of what would have happened next.
Hey everybody, so Palm Pepper Spray is a very proud partner of us here at Law and Crime, and we're super excited about it because if you follow our stories, you know protecting yourself, those you love, it is so important. Misfire. And if I was reading it correctly, they look at his phone and they look at the timestamps of the images and the videos. They're from September to now. So that concentration of so many videos and images in a relatively short amount of time, what does that tell you?
Well, it tells me that he's very prolific and that he had an obsession, an attraction to this sort of material. He got off on the sneaky nature of doing it and having this prize that he was able to get and live with and review over and over again. And that's why you see so many times predators having child pornography, or in the case of predators who actually are successful in getting together with an underage victim, they will videotape the sex act. We had a case in Ohio where a guy got arrested in our sting, was out pending prosecution, and they caught him in a hotel room 2 weeks later with a real 14-year-old girl, sexually assaulting her and recording, making a video of the entire act. So these guys want a trophy, right? And to this guy,
hell nah.
if you believe the allegations,
I get if you crushing that motherfucker and she's above age, bro. What the fuck? And you want to record? I'm saying y'all some adults. Like, let's make a movie, baby. But hell nah, not that predator shit. Fuck no. That's uncomfortable. That makes me uncomfortable just watching this video. It's fucked up, bro.
You know, he's been accused of these crimes. He was creating a vault of trophies, voyeuristically, sexually exploiting these women.
Yeah, and I think it's always important that we establish, right, this is the evidence that we see right now. It's an allegation. And it's pretty strong, like you said, that they have them on surveillance tape.
They've got the videos.
They have the videos. And by the way, for voyeurism, the way I saw it is about 2.5 years up to 2.5 years in prison for each of those counts. But the thing that also surprised me about it was the way he was caught. So the idea that he wasn't caught at first when one of these victims' friends actually caught him in the act. He wasn't apprehended by police then, but they were able to apprehend him on a second time. What'd you make of the way that police ultimately arrested him?
Well, I think it shows that these guys have a compulsion for this sort of activity. It runs consistent with all predatory criminal behavior, that they will keep doing it until they are caught. And so he was going to go back and do it again. The fact that police were able to arrest him means that, you know, thankfully there was vigilance in this matter, and sooner or later these guys will trip up and they will get caught. You know, just like in the predator investigations, we see chats all the time, including the most recent one we did, where guys say, this isn't a Sheriff so-and-so investigation, or I'm not going to meet Chris Hansen and have him tell me to take a seat, am I? And in spite of this concern, they show up anyway. It's like a heroin addict who you tell there's a 20% chance of fentanyl being in your heroin. Well, he's going to take that chance and roll the dice because of the compulsion, the addiction, the need to fulfill this fantasy.
One of the things that I thought about it, the fact that he didn't speak English, there was a translator there, so important, because if you're going to read him his rights before he ultimately hands over the phone and agrees to do it, you would not want some sort of miscommunication and evidence being obtained by police when they shouldn't have had it. So the idea of that language barrier, in your experience, does that ever become an issue in terms of the retrieval of evidence? Because, again, the fact that the translator was there, hopefully it was clearly communicated to Calderon what his rights are and what he was agreeing to. But that always is something I think a defense attorney would look at and be like, oh, well, wait a minute, did he understand what was happening here?
Well, exactly, and that's why in our predator investigations for takedown on True Blue, when we embed with law enforcement, they have a translator at the ready. In a recent investigation in Florida, we not only had a man who claimed to only speak Spanish, so we had a translator there, but we had somebody who only spoke Portuguese, which is a much more complicated language, to have a translator and to get your point across. So yes, it's absolutely important that you have these things here, and especially when you are in a state that is grappling with an immigration problem, an issue. You know, we catch in our stings whomever is in that area. So if you have an environment where you have a lot of undocumented immigrants, you're going to see that in the area just as you would if you were near a military base. You'll see some activity from people who are in the military.
Chris, I wanted to ask you and end the conversation with this idea of who the victims are. So only 2 victims have been identified, but the phone suggests that there could be at least 20. Reports are that you can call if you have a report to 480-312-5000. How difficult do you think it's going to be for law enforcement to figure out who all these other people were that were allegedly captured by Calderon on his phone?
Well, I think it's important to get the word out, Jesse, just like you did with that phone number. And, slowly but surely, women who have been in these retail establishments will wonder, wow, or maybe this guy looks familiar. And so I can predict almost without fear of contradiction that other women will come forward. In terms of making prosecutable cases, as you know, being an attorney, they have to find the video, link this up, and put everything together, perhaps also using surveillance from the individual stores. More likely, I think you'll see him charged with a couple different crimes. If in fact he is in this country illegally, there will be, some criminal prosecution and some sort of effort to deport him. And I'm sure all that will come down to some sort of plea agreement, depending on who's representing him and how serious and how many charges there actually are.
Chris, before I let you go, if you had the opportunity to sit down with Calderon, let's say you caught him in the act, what would be the first question you would ask him?
How did this start? And what are you thinking?
Alright, too much talking. 50-50 W video, I'm not gonna lie. I wasn't really fucking with it. But we finna be back with more. Like, comment, subscribe, bro. Let's go.